So I need to post an update to a video I did yesterday on this channel about Bret Weinstein getting banned from Facebook for no apparent reason, because apparently the situation has resolved, and even better, there's a little extra drama that I want to talk about. So we learned yesterday in this tweet that Bret sent out that he had been banned from Facebook. He said, "I have been evicted from Facebook, no explanation, no appeal. I have downloaded my information and see nothing that explains it. We are governed now in private by entities that make their own rules and are answerable to no processes. Disaster is inevitable. We are living it." Well, we see here a reply from Liz Bourgeois, but we're not going to call her Liz Bourgeois, because when I first saw her name, I was like, I thought in my head, I read it as bourgeoisie, which I think is far more appropriate, because Liz here works for Facebook, and so she is obviously a member of the bourgeoisie. So we're going to call her Liz Bourgeoisie. And she replied, your account was mistakenly flagged by our system for identifying imposter accounts. We've restored it and are sorry for the mistake. Now, of course, we know Liz here is lying, because in the message that Bret originally got, it says flat out, you can't use Facebook because your account or activity on it didn't follow our community standards. We have already reviewed this decision and it cannot be reversed. So they're lying, and this should come as no surprise to anyone, because if we look at Liz Bourgeoisie's account, we see that she is a member of Facebook Communications, but formerly of the Democrats and Speaker Pelosi, and no one is surprised, because apparently everyone that works at Facebook, not everyone, I'm being facetious, YouTube, but lots of people who work at Facebook, especially apparently in their communications department, have ties to the Democrats. So no one is shocked about any of this, but they're obviously lying, and frankly, Eric Weinstein was more than a little pissed about this development. So he sent a whole rash of tweets retweeting our friend Liz Bourgeoisie here. And he says, "Dear Miss Bourgeoisie, you do realize to what you were admitting, it wasn't flagged. It was permanently disabled by you with no warning and no possible appeal and zero information. And according to you, it was reviewed. So it wasn't automated. You are lying. What really happened?" And he goes on to say, and we're going to read a whole bunch of his tweets here, so bear with me for a second. "Let me say this clearly, as I work for a board member of your company. I'm not speaking for Peter Thiel or Thiel Capital, but as myself and a lifelong progressive and contrarian. Your politics and technology are out of control in a lethal cocktail. We know who wants Bret canceled." Now, these progressives that rail against cancel culture but don't seem to understand that Donald Trump is the only one fighting it. I mean, listen, man, I don't have anything against sane progressives. I don't. People should be able to have different opinions. We should be able to have discussions. We should be able to have debates. We should respect the marketplace of ideas. But I just really don't get people like Eric and Bret, and frankly Helen Pluckrose too, who I talked about on this channel yesterday, who don't see that the only person fighting this, the only person they have in their corner that can actually do anything about this besides complain on the internet, which is what all of us do, the only person who's actually in a position to be able to do something about this besides the do-nothing GOP Republicans in the Senate is Donald Trump. He is the only one fighting back against this, and God willing, he gets elected to a second term and he can really unleash on these people. I think Trump's going to get elected after last night's debate. I really do. I'm really not as nervous about it as I even was 24 hours ago. And I want to see Trump in a second term when he no longer has to run for re-election. I think it would be glorious. And I think the tech companies are shaking in their boots that it's a possibility. Eric goes on to say, "You should never send that cancellation message to anyone ever. Even at Nuremberg, we acquitted 3 of the Nazi defendants. You're acting in front of an election as an anti-American force, posing as an American near utility protected by barriers to entry. And lying. What happened?" Bret is also suspended without explanation at Articles of Unity by Twitter for rejecting the two-party duopoly to push for unity. I actually think that's BS. I really do. I think the Articles of Unity idea is actually a really interesting idea. It's worthy of consideration. It's worthy of discussion. I don't support it right now, because right now I feel like the house is on fire and we need to get Donald Trump reelected and he needs to get back into office and actually fight this on behalf of us. But I would be very open to having discussions around articles of unity after that happens. I just don't think now's the time. But regardless of whether or not I think now is the time or later is the time or whether or not we just have a discussion, there is no reasonable explanation for why this is banned off any platform. This goes against everything that we stand for in this country, guys. Everyone should be afraid of this. If an idea like this can get banned or suspended when they haven't broken any rules simply because they are suggesting an idea that is outside of the mainstream of what we're used to, or frankly, it has really nothing to do with that. It has to do with someone at Twitter not liking this idea. That's terrifying. And that should be terrifying for everyone, because if they can do it to Bret and Eric and Articles of Unity today, then they can do it to any of us tomorrow. And then we're completely taken out of the public square. And by the way, Jack Dorsey sent a tweet about 2 years ago, basically calling Twitter the public square. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. Twitter sees itself as the public square. So what does it say? Every time Twitter bans someone for having a difference of opinion, what does that say about the public square that they're trying to create? Let's keep going. Your companies are making strikingly similar, inextricable errors, revealing the bias on both your parts and lying. What is this about? His anti-wokeness? You want to get your engineers on a call to discuss type 1 versus type 2 errors? Why your terms of service and editorializing are so bizarre? How you can't find technical people to answer your questions in ways that make sense to technical outsiders more interested in the US than money. It would be a pleasure to have them on my podcast because as a technical person myself, your explanations make no sense. You seem to have a political bias problem and you find yourselves in a position to decide who may regulate you by controlling our conversations. Be well, Eric. And so I wanted to talk about Eric's response, but actually the thing that I find most interesting is Dave Rubin has jumped into the Give No F's bandwagon and he is flat calling Eric out on this response. Dave replies to Eric, feature, not bug. Can't understand how you guys don't see it yet. Eric responds, one day, Dave. What do I not see clearly that you are trying to show us? And Dave Rubin, in spectacular Give No F's fashion, replies, the exact same stuff I've been saying to you at dinner parties and privately for 3 years. Let's all give a slow clap for Dave. Slow clap for Dave. Slow clap. Yes. Yes. Welcome to the Give No F's party, Dave. They keep promising me that I'm going to get cookies. I have yet to get cookies, but still, welcome anyway. We embrace this new Give No F's calling out of the BS attitude. But it keeps going. It keeps going. Eric keeps responding. Well, keep trying to emphasize that we just don't get it in public. Do you ever wonder why we don't sign up for the ready-made Turning Point USA conservative ecosystem? I mean, there's money and Trump has done some great things. I get on with many conservatives and libertarians. Think, Dave, did Eric Weinstein just call Dave Rubin a grifter? I think he might have. Now, listen, I think there are lots of reasons why it wouldn't be a fit for Eric or Bret to sign up for Turning Point stuff. I do. Like, it doesn't really seem like a good fit for me. They're on, like, completely opposite sides of the spectrum. But that doesn't mean that this is even appropriate to bring into this conversation when apparently Dave is not saying anything he hasn't said to them already before. Let's keep going. Or you could just keep trying to emphasize that you are farther ahead of us and that we are cognitively slower. Up to you. Note, I don't do this to you. So Eric's got in his panties in a little bunch there. And I don't think that's what Dave was doing. I don't think that's what Dave was doing at all. I obviously don't know the intricacies of their relationship, but it seems to me that Dave gave him a little gentle nudge to say, dude, you know what it is? You know what it is? It's like when you have a loved one and they do something stupid and everyone knows it's stupid, and you give them not a harsh, but like a smack upside the head, just to be like, what are you doing? What are you doing? That's what Dave Rubin did there. It was a polite, light smack upside the head, just to be like, dude. But Dave responds, you don't want what to me? Express different. You don't do what to me? Express differences? I say the exact same things privately as I do publicly, and not sure what the Turning Point comment means, that I've gone to do events for Turning Point and talked about and talked about being for gay marriage, pro-choice, and against the death penalty, to name a few. And that's where it ends. So hopefully they took their little beef offline, you know, whatever. I love Twitter spats. I really do. But you know what? Listen, Dave is absolutely right, man. Dave is 100% right on this. This should be a surprise to no one. This should be a surprise to exactly no one. And this should definitely not be a surprise to Eric, and especially to Bret. This should not have been a surprise at all, but they keep playing this game as though this is not the reality that we're dealing with. They keep playing this game as though they're surprised every time that this happens. Listen, I haven't even been playing this game for as long as any of these people. And I'm not surprised by any of this. I don't like it. I'm fighting back against it as best I possibly can. But I don't know why this is such a mystery at this point. And it's not because I don't think that Eric and Bret are really smart people, because they're about 1,000 times smarter than me. I'll tell you what, like, they're really, really smart people. But for some reason, they have this blind spot. I don't get it. I don't know, man. Hopefully they wake up, but slow clap for Dave Rubin. And you know what? I mean, I'm glad Bret's account got reinstated, but yeah, Liz Bourgeoisie, that was a BS answer right there. And we all know it's BS, and I'm grateful. As much as I ragged on Eric a little bit in this video, I'm grateful for him calling it out. All right, guys, that's all I've got. I'll see you soon.